Imagine being on vacation at a luxurious house far from the city crowds. Calm atmosphere, no roar of cars, no sound of neighbors, just you and your family enjoying the peace. But suddenly, everything changed. The internet went down, the power went out, cell signal disappeared. Even the car broke down for no apparent reason. That night you realized the world was collapsing slowly, without an explosion, without a warning, destroyed in a terrifying silence. That's the plot of the film Leave the World Behind. A frightening story about a civilization slowly disappearing. Not because of zombies or war, but because of something quieter and more deadly. One day during a long holiday, a family was on a vacation trip. There was the wife, Amanda, and her husband Clay, together with their 2 children, Rose and Archie. They rented a secluded, luxurious house in the middle of the woods, far from New York City. For Amanda, who usually relied heavily on technology and social media, this vacation was seen as the perfect moment to truly rest. Their plan was to spend about a week there.
Very far away from...
Get back to the city. Can you take me to see the...
Upon arriving at the house, Amanda immediately told her 2 kids to enjoy the available facilities. Amanda was happy to see her children enthusiastic, especially since the house they rented turned out to be very comfortable and luxurious. Because their food supplies were limited, Amanda went to a supermarket quite far away. While about to leave in the parking area, Amanda saw a man buying a very large amount of food. Amanda wondered to herself what it meant. After returning home, Clay invited his wife and kids to a beach not far from there. He said that beach had very beautiful natural scenery. Without a second thought, they left. When they arrived at the beach, they sunbathed and enjoyed the sun. Suddenly, Rose noticed a large ship approaching them. At first, Clay thought the ship was just passing by, but after a while, the ship got closer and closer in a strange way. Worried, Clay and his family decided to go home. On the way, they talked about the earlier incident. Clay tried to stay calm and guessed that it might just be a captain's error. However, not long after, they were startled by the sight of a deer approaching their house.
At least according to Mesoamerican mythology.
That night, after Rose and Archie had gone to sleep, Clay and Amanda spent time together. The phone signal was completely gone. In the middle of the night, suddenly someone knocked on their door. Feeling cautious, Clay brought a vase to be on guard. When the door opened, a man appeared who claimed to be George, the owner of the house, along with his daughter Ruth. George explained that there had been a massive power outage in the city, and since they couldn't get back to their apartment in Manhattan, they were forced to return to this house. Amanda felt suspicious and didn't immediately believe him, especially since George was a black man with a very elegant appearance. There was an underlying tension both racially and socially. Clay tried to be calmer and mediate the situation. Finally, they allowed George and Ruth to stay in the basement.
I'm Clay.
Children are sleeping.
Let's go to the kitchen. Tonight we were...
In the middle of the night, the TV suddenly turned on with a national emergency broadcast. It was still unclear what was really happening, but the atmosphere became more unsettling. George, who was staying in the basement, felt uncomfortable, while Amanda was still doubtful and felt they should kick George out. After all, Amanda was the one who rented the house. The next morning, Amanda was woken up by Rose, who was complaining because she couldn't watch her favorite TV show. The signal was completely gone. Amanda felt confused. Her phone also had no signal at all, even though there was a brief notification about a power outage on the American East Coast. TV and radio broadcasts were still completely dead. Worried, Clay decided to go into town to look for information. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Amanda met George. The house owner asked if Amanda's phone was also unusable. Amanda nodded, but still tried to stay calm and assumed this was only a temporary disruption. Rose, who was near the swimming pool, was suddenly startled by dozens of deer that appeared in the yard. Clay, who was driving to town, felt strange. The roads were completely empty. Not a single person was in sight. This situation made him wonder more about what was really happening. George decided to go to a neighbor's house to look for information. Instead, he found a worrying situation. A messy yard, broken glass, and the house was empty. While looking through the rooms, George found a satellite phone. But strangely, that satellite phone also couldn't get a signal, even though the device should work anywhere. Curious, George walked to the beach not far from the house. There, a horrifying sight awaited him. Many dead bodies lay scattered around the wreckage of a crashed plane. Before he could recover from the shock, another plane suddenly crashed in almost the same spot. Meanwhile, Archie and his younger sister Rose walked into the forest to get some fresh air. They even entered an old cabin.
We're sleeping in? It's all dark out.
Unexpectedly, Archie's leg was bitten by a strange animal. But thinking it was just a normal animal, they decided to go home.
What?
George returned to the house and told Amanda about the plane crash he saw. George seemed very worried about the situation. Not long after, they heard a very loud sound wave that hurt their ears. Amanda remembered her 2 kids were still in the forest. Panicking, she ran to look for them and finally managed to bring them back to the house. When she wanted to look for Clay, who still hadn't returned, George stopped her. He said the conditions outside were too dangerous. On the other hand, Clay, who was on his way, was approached by a hysterical woman speaking Spanish. From her gestures, the woman was asking for help. Clay was confused between helping her or continuing his journey.
I don't understand what you...
Acabo de ver un avión saliendo del bosque. Mi casa del viento. No me deje aquí, señora.
Suddenly, a drone flew by and scattered paper leaflets into the air, forcing him to take immediate action. Sometime later, Clay finally came home. Amanda felt relieved to see her husband return safely. Clay went straight to the kitchen and told them that the conditions outside were very strange. The whole way, Clay didn't meet a single person. Then Clay gave them a leaflet he found on the road. The writing on the piece of paper was in Arabic, and George couldn't read it. Archie, who had seen similar writing in a game, told them that the message meant death to America. Hearing this, Amanda immediately wanted to take her family back to their home as soon as possible. On the way, Clay's family was startled by self-driving electric cars. The vehicles were piling up and blocking the road. Not long after, more electric cars came from behind and crashed into other vehicles. The incident happened quickly, making Clay and his family decide to return to the rental house. That night, Amanda found George drinking alone in the kitchen. George invited her to join, and Amanda agreed. As it got later, Amanda started wondering about George's job. George answered briefly he was a consultant. But then, George started telling something that frightened Amanda. George revealed that a few months earlier, he had a client with a slightly strange business. That client was an IT expert who one day asked for his help to move a very large amount of money. After that, the client said goodbye to George, saying he was leaving and wouldn't return. The client also told George to take good care of himself. Hearing George's story, Amanda was curious what the point of it was. George then explained in more detail that this client of his was likely connected to the ongoing events. George suspected that what was happening now was the work of hackers who caused all technology systems to completely fail.
Ever since I haven't been able to get it out of my conspiracy theory about a
Not long after, the loud sound wave was heard again. The sound was so intense that the glass and lights in the house shattered. Amanda, who was frightened, decided to sleep with her family to protect each other. The next morning, Archie woke up vomiting blood. Some of his teeth had also fallen out for no apparent reason. Seeing this, Amanda panicked and called for Clay. Clay suggested taking Archie to the hospital, but they remembered the road conditions were impassable. Amanda was confused about what to do. George tried to calm Amanda down and promised to ask the neighbors for help, as they might have medicine.
I'm gonna be there to help us anyway. If I know Danny, he's prepared. Thank
But that plan was hindered because Rose was missing. Anxiously, George divided the tasks. George, together with Clay and Archie, would go to the neighbor's house to look for medicine. Meanwhile, Amanda and Ruth would go into the forest to look for Rose. While passing an old cabin, Ruth talked about the feelings she had been keeping inside. Ruth admitted she was very worried about her mother's condition. Hearing that, Amanda felt sad and guilty. She knew from George's earlier words that Ruth's mother had passed away, but she couldn't bring herself to tell Ruth. At the same time, Amanda realized that she had been too suspicious of George and Ruth without a strong reason.
You see what they fuck. Every deep down, we know we're not.
Meanwhile, George, Clay, and Archie arrived at their neighbor's house. George knocked on the door while calling for Danny, the house owner.
Sorry to the porch and buy your
Danny came out carrying a weapon and immediately told George to leave. Clay tried to mediate by explaining that Archie was sick and needed medicine. But Danny still didn't care. Tension arose between George and Danny, who both raised their weapons, even though they actually knew each other. Clay tried to calm the situation down.
I can barely do it. Man, and my dog. But
Finally, Danny relented and agreed to trade some medicine for the $1,000 Clay had. Before leaving, Clay showed the leaflet in Arabic that meant death to America. Danny admitted he already knew about this, because his friend in another area had experienced a similar incident a few days earlier. That was why Danny had bought a large amount of food at the supermarket, like Amanda had seen before. As they were about to leave, Danny told George about the unoccupied neighbor's house. He said that house had an underground bunker specially designed for doomsday. On the other side, Amanda and Ruth, who were looking for Rose in the forest, were startled by a loud noise near the cabin. Amanda walked faster, not realizing that Ruth was being approached by dozens of deer that looked aggressive. Amanda turned back and shouted to scare the herd of deer away. As they were about to head back, Ruth suddenly stopped and looked towards the city, which appeared destroyed, as if a war was happening. Meanwhile, Rose had actually reached a house in the middle of the forest, the house Danny mentioned. Inside, she found a bunker with a very large supply of food. From the monitor screen inside the bunker, information showed that the White House had been taken over by military forces. All American citizens were ordered to seek shelter, and the film ends.